What is going on, college football fans, Big 12 fans, and welcome in to another edition of Couz's Corner. This time we are live, baby. We are live for what I like to call the Couz's Corner happy hour here, as I hope to spend about an hour with you guys here talking about Big 12 football. We're going to look at tonight. We're going to look at the Big 12 schedule, kind of do a full breakdown. I'm going to tell you who I think has the easiest schedule, who I think has the hardest schedule. Look at some key matchups. We're also going to talk about some recent remarks made by Houston head coach Dana Holgorsen regarding Houston entering the Big 12 and where Houston is at as a program as we speak today and as they enter year one in a Power Five conference. I'd like to thank Bob Holsey for jumping on here. Bob, you said you're from Panama. Is that Panama City, Florida, or is that Panama, the country? What's up, Grayson Berg? Thanks for hopping on here. Appreciate everybody. Yeah, I'm hoping to be joined here by my good friend Outlaw College Football. When he hops on, we'll get him in to chat with us. Go check his channel out. I've got his Twitter handle up on the screen too if you want to look him up on Twitter at OCF Productions. He's also on Facebook at Jesse Paul Clark. So if you want to check him out there, go do that. I will put that up on the screen as well. And I'm on Facebook. I have my own Facebook page just under Couz's Corner. I have a personal Facebook page, but I try to steer my YouTube traffic, my YouTube audience traffic to Couz's Corner so that I can keep those separate. But that being said, let's jump right in here and take a look at this Big 12 conference. By the way, guys, before we get started, if you want to make sure your chat gets seen and that I read it out live, throw me a super chat, no matter how big, how small. I'll try my best to get to all the chats or I'll try my best to get to all the comments, but obviously if you do that, it lights it up and highlights it. Makes it much easier for you to see, or for me to see rather. And also, if you want to steer the conversation in a specific direction, by all means, if you're willing to pay me a donation, then I'll talk about what you want to talk about. That's kind of how it works here on these live streams. Got Pastor's Pocket EDC in the house. Thank you for hopping on. That's a new name don't remember seeing in here. I've got Jacob Yoho in the house. Once again, got Bob Holsey and Grayson Berg. Thanks to everybody for hopping on. That's who I see in the chat right now. Pastor's Pocket out of Clarksburg, West Virginia. I'm here in the southern part of the state, Pastor's Pocket, down here in Mercer County. So I'm about 3 hours south. He was actually just in your neck of the woods this past weekend. Family and I went up to watch the West Virginia Oklahoma basketball game. Could not have picked a better game to go to. West Virginia absolutely housed Oklahoma. Family and I stayed in hotels there in the Clarksburg area in Bridgeport. So, and I go up that way quite a bit for work as well. So I spend quite a bit of time in the Bridgeport, Clarksburg area. What's up, Shrewsbury's Honeycomb? Thanks for hopping on here, my man. Real quick, I'm going to share the Big 12 schedule with you guys here. Hopefully, you guys will be able to see it with me. The best view really was the one they put out on their Twitter account, in my opinion. I was not able to find a PDF version to download. So this is what we got right now, is this version right here. Like I said, hopefully you can see it. If you can't, I apologize. I'll try to make it a little bit bigger. Maybe that helps some. What we got here, actually, that made it too big. Now you can't see the whole thing. So there we go. So what we got, as you see here, some key matchups. First off, I really, obviously, West Virginia, to touch on them first. You've got West Virginia, as you see them down here at the bottom. Obviously, you have them playing Houston. That's going to be a big game. That game will take place on October the 14th. It's going to be October the 12th. The date is wrong on here. That's the weekend of October 14th games. So that game is actually on Thursday night, so it will be October the 12th. West Virginia will travel to Houston to take on Dana Holgorsen and the Cougars. As I mentioned in a previous video, I think the Big 12 missed out on a super opportunity here to have a really big game. Having Houston come to West Virginia in Dana Holgorsen's first year in the conference would have been a big deal. Could have been a game they could have put on national television. Could have gotten a lot of eyes on that game, in my opinion. So I think they missed an opportunity. But nonetheless, West Virginia and Houston do get to play each other first year in the league. Outlaw has hopped on here. Let me get him on here with us. What's going on, Outlaw?
All right, brother.
Everybody, this is Outlaw of College Football. I mentioned him earlier. Go check him out on YouTube at Outlaw of College Football. Does a lot of stuff. Really, he covers. I'll let you tell him. What do you like to cover over there on your channel?
Well, mostly cover just college football. Every now and then I'll get a wild hair at my ass and I'll cover some politics and that kind of stuff. But other than that, it's mostly college football. Sometimes I'll touch on college basketball as well.
Yeah. Yeah, Outlaw does some good stuff over there. He and I, kind of got to know each other through YouTube actually, and he's one. Actually, he may be. You may be the first guest I ever had on my show, Outlaw. I'll have to go back and check it, but I think you may be. So, and
Yeah,
here
it
we
was back
are,
um
year and a half
that's back
later.
in the, that's back in the 200 subscriber days, right?
Yeah, somewhere in there. Yeah, if that many even. I'm not even sure how many I had. I have to go back. That takes me back. It feels like it's been 10 years ago, but it
I
really's
was
only been a year and
actually
a half.
that was actually my old channel that I was on. I think
Hmm.
the J&J Outlaw.
It was.
Um, and I had to redo my channel because the algorithm was messed up, and I had to start over.
Yeah, yeah, it was the old one. David Cummings is on here. He's a channel member. David Cummings, thanks for your support, man. He says Couz is the best WVU show on YouTube. Thanks, man. Means a lot because there's a lot of us out there. Uh, Luke Bart says, let's go. He's another channel member. And David Cummings again says, JPC is awesome. I love his channel. Please check him out. Thank you, David.
Appreciate that. Yeah,
uh,
I'm a lover of all of college football, man. I don't have just one team I like to talk about. Everybody knows I'm an Alabama fan, but I like college football history in general, the traditions, most of them anyway.
yeah. Yeah. Outlaw, if you want somebody that knows their college football history, he's your guy, man. He may know as much, if not more, about the history of West Virginia football even than I do. I mean, he's passionate about the game and has followed it probably since you were a kid, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah, I started out collecting Athens magazines. You'll see on my profile sometimes just a little joke that I'm a graduate of the Athens Football Academy.
Yeah, I'm trying to share the schedule. It's not showing up real clear. It's kind of small, but if I enlarge it any more, then it cuts half of it off. So,
Yeah, they don't make those things very friendly.
nah, and they probably do that on purpose, to be honest, so that people like us can't use them. But anyway, we can talk about it. I was just talking about how the Big 12 missed an opportunity, in my opinion. And by the way, speaking of Houston and Dana Holgorsen, I've got the Dana Holgorsen stuff going on tonight where I'm having to clear my throat a lot.
Oh, really?
So I guess that's in tribute to him. I'm clearing my throat tonight. Okay. But
Okay.
I got some kind of allergies or reflux or something going on. But anyway,
I was looking over this schedule, and Holgorsen, man, to me, he made out pretty good because it seems to me like the people that made this schedule, and I can't really say they did it deliberately, but it seems like they were sort of trolling a few teams, and they used Houston to do it. You know, Texas and Houston have a history together where Texas didn't want to go play them in Houston anymore because there was a unsafe situation that occurred with their fans down there in the stadium and whatnot. And then you have West Virginia, who has a history with Dana because of how he left. And both of those teams have to go to Houston. How did he manage that?
I don't know, man. That's your guess as good as mine on that one. They say that they put these things. I think I heard this. I think I heard actually Baylor's AD talking about this on the 365 Sports Show. I think's where I heard this from, but it could have been something else. But they kind of the schedules kind of they put the teams into a computer and some kind of algorithm spits a schedule out.
Yeah.
Everybody
I
reviews it.
definitely believe that, man.
Well, everybody has to review it and approve it, obviously. So,
All right.
but Texas probably didn't have a whole lot of say, or at least chose not to. Who knows? But I mean, I would have thought if Texas had too much of an issue with the schedule, they would have said, "Hey, we're not happy with this schedule. Let's redo it." Maybe it fell on deaf ears, or maybe they're just going along to get along until they get out. I don't know what the deal is there.
Right.
David Cummings told me to just drink a Red Bull, but I
I
do
just,
apologize, guys. I've got this stuff bad tonight. And it always seems to hit me right when I'm getting ready to go live or something. But so if you hear me clearing my throat a lot, it's not
I
that
just
I'm
feel,
trying to be like Dana. I'm just dealing with this crap.
I just
Anyway,
feel
keep
like
going.
I feel like they may have catered to Oklahoma State because you know how Mike Gundy's been whining and crying and wetting his diaper this whole offseason about something. He's always got something to complain and whine about. And Houston, I feel like they cater to those two teams in a way. And to me, if you're going to cater to a team, the two teams you should cater to would be TCU and West Virginia. I mean, West Virginia, what y'all got the most 15th most wins in college football's history. And on top of
Yeah.
that, y'all been doing most of the travel, helping keep the conference up. Y'all been doing all the traveling mostly. I mean, y'all the ones that's having to do the longest travel for this conference. And you
Yeah.
think they would try to maybe set this up a little bit nicer for these two teams that have basically been leading the conference as far as stable programs.
Yeah.
And TCU made the playoffs, so they're
Right.
the first team outside in the Big 12 that's made the playoffs outside of Oklahoma. So you think they would try to help them out too?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I'm not. I prefer them to stay unbiased in this whole thing, and hopefully they did. But you never know. I'm sure there are people out there who have agendas, but I'd like to think that the Big 12 front office rises above all that stuff. But you know what? Who knows? At the end of the day, there could be some pettiness going on here with the schedule. Uh,
Well, it just seems like West Virginia's done a lot of legwork and helping keep this thing together. I mean, they're way out there. Um, what do y'all separate about 3 states, 4 states sometimes?
Something like that. Yeah.
So I would definitely not be making West Virginia go on the road to play Dana Holgorsen in his very first season.
Yeah.
I think that's a bunch of crap.
Yeah, and not only that, I mean, it's missed opportunity for a huge game on TV. Very passionate fan base in West Virginia that would probably fill that stadium up for that game, especially being on a Thursday night. Uh,
I
I
know
actually,
you're a Big
I just
12
think it
guy.
was a great missed opportunity for the league, in my opinion.
You're a Big 12 guy, so you probably don't shed any tears for Oklahoma and Texas, I'm sure. But I just think that if Oklahoma and Texas are going to get out of this contract in 2024, and it's not really decided yet. They're saying they're going to stay now in 2025, but then the next week they'll be talking about they're going to get out in 2024. So if they're going to get
Yeah,
out in 2024, why should they have to play any road games against these newbies if they're not going to get a return home game from them?
right. Yeah, I actually thought about that too. That makes me think that they're not going to get out early, um, or they wouldn't have done that. But like I said,
Here's
I
the
could be
thing, man.
wrong.
If they stay to 2025, then the Big 12 is not going to really get anything out of it. If I was the Big 12, I'd try to find some kind of middle ground or something and get them out of there so there's not so much tension. And get them out of there, put them in the SEC in 2024, and at least get some money from them. Because
Well,
if they stay in 2025, they don't have to pay nothing.
yeah, they still have to pay a buyout.
They have
They
to
have to
pay
pay a
about for
yeah.
2025.
Yeah, they do. The Big 12 has in their bylaws any team who leaves the conference at any time between now and 2099 has to pay an has to
The,
pay the
the,
equivalent of 2
buyout,
years of TV money.
the buyout must come down significantly then for it to be 2025.
Well, what the 2025 thing is they miss out here. See, and I had to study this to understand it because it was a little confusing to me. But the grant of rights money is separate from that. The grant of rights money is what they make, obviously, by being part of the Big 12 and that's what the TV revenue money they bring in. They get that from being part of the grant of rights, signing the grant of rights with the conference. That money is separate from the buyout money. The buyout money is something anybody has to pay for leaving. It's an exit fee, is what they call it. But the grant of right, what happens if they leave before 2025? All the TV money that the conference gets that would have been Texas and Oklahoma doesn't get that money. So they would be out that money. If they stay through 2025, they get their share of that money.
I know we went over this 100 times probably. I'm an unbiased observer in all this because I'm an SEC guy, but
That's why I like having you on here because you can
I'm
bring.
just struggling to understand why. I know this pisses a lot of people off. Why does Texas and Oklahoma have to adhere to any contract with the Big 12 bringing in 4 new teams that they really didn't want to have no part of? Wouldn't that make the contract null and void in
Apparently
some
not.
aspects?
Yeah, I mean it's a good question, and I know I've heard other people make that argument, and obviously I'm no lawyer, so I have no idea. But the fact that they haven't come out and fought that, or at least not publicly, and haven't been able to use that to get out early or to avoid paying the exit fee, at least not yet anyway, then it makes me think that it's not against the bylaws. I don't know. It
Right.
is a good question.
Obviously, it's not, but I'm just playing a little devil's advocate right there. If I'm the Big 12 people, I would be like, yeah, screw y'all. Y'all done this
Hmm.
in the still of the night, in a shady corner somewhere. And the Oklahoma and Texas fans, they'll get pissed off when I say that. The Oklahoma fans me and them got a little bit of a love affair going on.
Hmm.
But the thing is, man, if they're being honest with themselves, man, Texas and Oklahoma was not on the up and up with this, man. They was a little shady, in my opinion, when they joined the SEC. They made the Big 12 think that they were all in. I think it was November or December,
Hmm.
and then January or February, boom, they're leaving the conference.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's one reason everybody was so mad about it. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I have no issue with him leaving because any team in their position would do the same thing.
That's true.
I have a problem with the way they did it, but then I read articles about past teams that have left conferences.
Yeah.
It's always done quietly because if you make it public, then everybody finds out about it. Then all of a sudden everybody starts lawyering up. It becomes then it becomes a court battle, and then they end up stopping it potentially, and then you don't get to go. So for the better interest of the school, they keep everything under wraps because if they don't, then it could end up getting nixed, and they don't get to make the move. So I mean, I understand it, but at the same time, you have to look at it from our perspective as the 8 teams that were left. We're losing our two bigger brands that are bringing in, according to Bob Bowlesby, 50% of the revenue for the conference.
Right.
So that's a big hit for us. And of course,
I
we
know.
thought for a while the conference was going to go completely under.
Yeah, that's what it looked like at first until Yormac come in and sort of saved the day. But I was just struggling with that, and the fact that the guy before, man, it's like he intentionally tried to piss Oklahoma and Texas off sometimes.
He
And it
did,
might be trivial to some,
yeah,
but having to continually play 11 a.m. games, man, that sort of sucks.
yeah.
I don't like the 11 a.m. game. I'll be honest with you.
Well, but it's noon here. But I guess but they're on Central Time out there, and everybody. Well, until now, everybody in the Big 12 but us was on Central Time. So
Right.
so I understand. I understand the fact that they didn't like doing it, but at the end of the day, it's the TV networks making most of these decisions.
Well, it'd be different as just one or two, but I noticed on the
Yeah.
Oklahoma schedule, I think they had like 4 or 5 11 a.m. games, and that just doesn't do good for your local economy, man, and tailgating and stuff.
I think it was all about Fox not wanting to have to compete head to head with the SEC.
Yeah, yeah, it was definitely probably
Yeah.
more Fox's fault.
Yeah, I think
And
so.
like you said, man, 2 or 3 years ago, and I done a podcast about today. 2 or 3 years ago, it looked like the Big 12 was going to dissolve and
Hmm.
be extinct, and the Big 10 sort of conned the Pac-12 into not expanding, or you probably would have had the Pac-12 taking most of the Big 12 at that time, and they just screwed the Pac-12 over. They knew that the Pac-12 could probably become like a Western giant if they were to take most of the Big 12, and Kevin Warren and the Big 10 sort of lured them in, and then a year down the road, they took their two biggest moneymakers from LA,
Yeah.
and now the shoe's on the other foot.
Right.
Now the Big 12 needs to learn from the Pac-12's mistakes, and they need to put their foot on the Pac-12's throat and go out there and take about 6 of those teams. If y'all can get Oregon and Washington too, man, the Big 12 would be like they would be the big three instead of this big two that they're talking about with the SEC and the Big 10 monopolizing everything. The Big 12 would be a major player and own most of the Western markets out there.
Hmm. Hank says, and of course Hank's an OU fan because he's got an OU thumbnail there. He says, "Are the two schools that have financially carried this conference supposed to care about the tagalongs?" Not necessarily. No. I mean, I,
Who's the tag along?
I guess he's considering the other 8 members tagalongs.
Oh,
Without the other 8 members, you don't have a conference. So I don't know that I call them tagalongs.
yeah. Well,
But
when you say that, you start falling into the Texas elitism stuff. And if I'm Oklahoma fans, although you went hand in hand with Texas on this, I don't know if I'd want to get into that.
Yeah, and which I like Hank's on here a lot. I appreciate Hank's support, but I disagree with him on this. It's not the fact that they care. It's just doing things with integrity and doing things the right way. You know what I mean? It's that's
Yep.
how I look at it.
Yep.
They have to do what's best for their school. I mean, at the end of the day, the ads and presidents get paid by the school, and that's who they have to look out for.
It's like you said, if the SEC had came to the entire Big 12 and said, "Hey, y'all want to merge?" Every single one of them would have merged with the SEC,
Oh, I guarantee it.
and that would have been awesome. I never thought of that. Man, that'd be great.
I love it, man. I love it.
You'd have the heartland of America and the deep South all in one league. It'd be like a mini version of the NFL or something, or maybe a larger version of the NFL.
Yeah, David Cummings says JPC is absolutely right. It was backdoor politics, but it's all about the money in the end.
They backdoored him.
Yeah, boy, you got that right.
They got him pretty good, but it ain't like you said. That goes on everywhere, just about.
Hank says, "Who has owned this conference?" And I'm not talking about Texas. Well, Texas definitely hasn't owned the conference because they haven't won hardly anything in over a decade. No, and you're right. Up until now, Oklahoma has ran the conference as far as winning standpoint. But
who's the SEC commissioner?
But you got to have somebody. But Oklahoma has to have somebody to play against. Hank.
The SEC commissioner's name always slips my mind for some reason.
Greg
What's
Sankey.
his name? Huh? Sankey.
Greg
yes.
Sankey.
You know, we're sitting here trying to blame Oklahoma and Texas, but Greg Sankey was in some meetings with a lot of these commissioners from these conferences, and he acted like their friend. And the whole time he was about to screw them. So
yeah.
The SEC is not blameless in this at all.
Yeah, Hank's done got something started in the chat room. John Kelly says Harley Tagalong's been a strong conference.
Yeah. Well, TCU finally, like I said, they made the playoffs, and up to that point, it's just been Oklahoma.
Well, Mountaineer Paul's in the house, guys. You go check his channel out too.
Yeah. By the way, I was going to tell you, man, that basketball channel y'all guys off the chain, man. I love that.
Thank you. By the way, for those of you who don't know, Mountaineer Paul and I have a basketball channel called Hoops from the Hills.
That's a great name, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah, Paul and I spent probably a couple hours trying to come up with that name, man. We threw around all kinds of ideas, and I wanted to incorporate something that related to West Virginia, right?
That's right.
And I thought Hills was perfect. And of course, I'm obviously Couz's Corner, Hoops from the Hills. I like having things that start with the same letter.
It's like a real cool play on words. That's what I like doing. I like to have a play on words, man. Get a little comedy in it as well. Sort of remind me when I first saw it. I thought it was like that scary movie called The Hills Have Eyes.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't thought about that, but you're right. And it's got the basketballs as O's and almost look like eyes.
That's right.
Hank says OU has won more conference championships than the rest combined and only get the same payout. Well, but here's the problem: when you start giving other teams in the league a higher payout, it makes the other teams start leaving.
Right.
So what do you do, right? I mean, look, I'm pretty good at trying to sit back and look at things objectively. At least I try to be. And if I'm an Oklahoma fan, I would probably feel the exact same way Hank does. But I've got to look at it I'm a West Virginia fan, so I'm obviously going to have a different view on it.
There's periods of times throughout history in college sports where you have that with one or two teams. I mean, you could have easily said that with UCLA in basketball back in the day in the 70s. We deserve to be paid more in basketball because we win all titles. Alabama, same thing. We could have said that when we was dominating the SEC. We could be like, hey, we should get paid more. Yeah. But it's called a conference for a reason.
Yeah.
If you want to be independent, then be independent. Be like Notre Dame, and you can have all the money you want then if you can pull the kind of money Notre Dame does. Notre Dame's got a unique situation and a big fan base that's based on probably the most popular religion in the world. So,
David Cummings says, Hank, who went 6-6 last season when you started in the top 10? Mountaineer Paul says, It's not about what you want, Hank. It's about integrity, like Couz said. Going to another conference is fine. Just don't go behind everyone's back and blindside them.
Yeah, but you made a good point in the fact that sometimes you can't really come out and say exactly everything that you're thinking about because it might get you in trouble legally.
Yeah, but I think another thing that rubbed people the wrong way is the fact that Bowlesby and Sankey were both sitting on that college football playoff committee together the entire time this was going on.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about, man. Is we're not blameless in this.
Yeah. So, but what do you do, right? Um, real quick, I want to. We haven't really touched on the schedule, which is fine. I mean, I don't. We're just having a conversation here, but I was trying to come up with who I thought had the hardest and easiest schedules in the Big 12, and I come up with the easiest schedule in my opinion. And I mean, it's kind of subjective. It's based on your opinion, but when you look at Baylor's schedule, let me see, make sure Baylor's schedule's up on the screen here. Baylor only Baylor only plays 4 away games the entire season.
Wow.
2 of them are against 2 of the new teams, UCF and Cincinnati. And then they have to go to TCU and to Kansas State. But every other game on their schedule, including their non-conference games, are all at home.
They're treating Baylor like they treat Georgia and Alabama.
Yeah, I mean, look at that schedule, man. I don't even know who that first team is. I don't recognize that logo. Then they got Utah. Then they got Long Island, I think it is, on the 16th. Then they have to play at home against Texas. Now, they do have to play Texas, but it's at home. Then they go to Central Florida. Then they come back home to play Texas Tech. So they're again, they don't even leave the state of they leave the state of Texas one time the first half of the season.
Hell, Texas is big as a country, so.
And then they get a bye, and then they go to Cincinnati.
They just think that's how they compared, man. But like Texas is actually bigger than France.
It is. It's a huge state, no doubt.
The easiest one that I've seen on here to me, I'm going to take jabs at them because Okie Pokey State.
Right.
Okie Pokey State fans don't like me, but Oklahoma State to me has a pretty easy road. They got 4 of their last 5 games against the newbies.
Right.
And their last 3 games are against the new teams.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. It just seems like they gave Oklahoma State a nice little road.
Yeah.
To a successful season. So
that's a good point. Yeah, and then they got back-to-back home games after their bye week too against Kansas State and Kansas before they have to go to Morgantown.
Well, they made Texas play Kansas State and TCU back-to-back, the 2 participants in the Big 12 title game. So they did Texas on purpose.
No, you're right there. Texas has got a tough schedule.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's not even counting Alabama in there.
Yeah, I know.
As a non-conference. When you look at one thing I just noticed about Oklahoma State's schedule, they're another team. They only play 4 away games. No, I'm sorry, They play 5. They do play 5.
And they only have to travel to Texas one time. I think it's against Houston.
Yeah, they do. I missed the Arizona State game in my first run through here, but yeah, they do play 5 away games. But like you said, they got UCF, West Virginia on the road, UCF on the road, Iowa State on the road. But yeah, but they don't play. Oh, and they don't play Texas at all.
All right.
So yeah, I mean, you could make an argument they have an easier road anyway. I don't think anybody's road easy, but
4 of their last 5 games are against former G5 schools. So
yeah, I know that's the hardest one in my opinion is BYU. Look at BYU's schedule. They didn't do them any favors. They start off the big. I mean, obviously they got two group of 5 schools or whatever to start the season. Even I think at Sam Houston's an FCS school. Then they got to go to Arkansas in their non-conference. Then they got Kansas on the road. They come home for Cincinnati, a bye. Then at TCU, Texas Tech, who's a lot of people are picking Texas Tech to win the conference this year.
Really?
Yeah, or at least be a dark horse.
Huh.
And then they have to go to Texas and to West Virginia in back-to-back weeks.
Wow, that's a lot of travel there.
Yes, from Provo. Then they're back home for Iowa State and Oklahoma. They have Texas. They're one of the few teams that have to play Texas and Oklahoma both. And then they close the season out with Oklahoma State on the road.
Wow.
So I don't know, man. And they only play 1 of the other new teams, and that's Cincinnati. And that's now that is a home game, but still, I mean, they don't play UCF, they don't play Houston, and they don't play. Or yeah, they don't play UCF and they don't play Houston. They only play Cincinnati. So, I mean, pretty tough schedule in my opinion.
No, I've told you this numerous times, but I don't know if the audience knows that BYU is I think the only non-Power 5 team, G5 team, whatever you want to call them, that's won a national championship in football. They won it in 1984.
Yeah,
but it's a long time ago. But
didn't they share it with somebody?
No, they didn't.
They did. Okay, I was thinking there was one year didn't Washington share a national title with somebody one year?
Yeah. Now Washington was complaining about it that year, but they didn't split it. But Washington did split a national title. You're right. They split it with Miami, I think, in 1991.
Okay.
Maybe it was 1991. Then the Miami split.
Good deal. Now, when you look at non-conference schedules, West Virginia is the only Big 12 team, and probably one of the only teams in the country, to be honest, that plays 2 Power 5 teams out of conference. We start the year at Penn State, who's going to be a top 10 team. Then we come home to play Duquesne, our FCS, our only FCS opponent, our only non-Power 5 opponent, actually. Then we have to play Pitt the following week. Now, the only bright side is we do get 3 home games in a row to start the season: Duquesne, Pitt, and Texas Tech. But something I talked about in one of my earlier videos, if you look at the first half of West Virginia's schedule, they could go 1-5. Very easily go 1-5 to start the season.
Who's y'all's first 6 games on there? Because I can't see it.
We got Penn State to start, then we have Duquesne, who we should beat, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then Pitt, then Texas Tech, and then TCU. That's our first 5 games.
Hey, I think they would wait until maybe Pittsburgh fell off the schedule to throw another big-time Pennsylvania school on there.
Well, what happened, Oliver Luck made this schedule when he was AD years ago, and at the time he was on the national or the college football playoff committee, and he said they looked really hard at strength of schedule, so he wanted to make West Virginia's strength of schedule one of the toughest in the country.
Right.
And of course, I guess they were planning on being good enough to win a lot of those games.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is, I'm sure, of course, he didn't foresee all this happening. Holgorsen leaving, Neil Brown coming in and struggling, and all that. But yeah, he didn't do us any favors, because I think we're one of the only. Last year, I think there was only 2 or 3 Power 5 teams who did that. To play 2 other Power 5s out of conference, and that's one reason a lot of West Virginia fans, and I'm not one of them, but that's why a lot of West Virginia fans have kind of given Neil Brown a little bit of a longer leash, because he has one of the tougher schedules in the country to play.
He does. And I was all for Neil Brown, because he used to coach down here at Troy State. Mm-hmm. I liked Neil Brown when he was down here at Troy. But what done it for me last year, and I talked to you about this before, is when he got blew out by Texas Tech.
Yeah.
It wasn't even really a great Texas Tech team. They were just a middle-of-the-road team.
Yeah.
And you can get beat by Texas Tech, but you don't need to get beat 48-10 or whatever it was.
I got to get to the super chat here, folks. Let me go up here and read this super chat here. I missed David Cummings. Thanks, man. Thanks for the support. When Oklahoma joins the SEC, they are headed back to 1990s when they were irrelevant. So, talking some smack in the chat room, David Cummings. Appreciate the super chat, my man. It's very possible that could happen. I don't think that'll happen. I do think it'll take Oklahoma a year or 2 to adjust to the SEC. But I think what Brent Venables is doing now in his recruiting is preparing them for the SEC. That's my opinion.
A lot of people mistakenly try to be cute and say, we're not going to be another Missouri. And what they don't realize is Missouri went to the SEC title game 2 years in a row. So you might want to hope that you are another Missouri. The team you probably need to be making fun of is Texas A&M, because they've never been to the SEC title game.
Right. Mountaineer Paul says, good point, JPC. WVU and Oklahoma State are the only 2 teams who trade 4 regular Big 12 teams for the 4 new. The back end of our schedule sets up nice for us. We've got Cincinnati, BYU, Houston, and UCF on our schedule, but they're all in the second half of the year. See, they should have put at least one of those teams on the front half of the schedule to even it out a little bit, because I think I don't think those teams are going to come into Big 12 and be juggernauts right away. It's going to take them some time to
Yeah.
adjust. I think UCF's probably in the best position to come in and compete. BYU's probably in the best position, but of the three coming from the American, I think UCF's probably in the best position.
UCF is probably what you would call a sleeping giant. They can get
Yeah,
the right ingredients together, man. I don't know if Gus Malzahn's the answer there, but I mean, you're in Orlando, so most people when they win the national championship, they go to Disney World. Well, they don't have to win a national championship; they can go to Disney World anytime they want.
right. Hank says, "Hey guys, it's all good. I'm just here throwing shots since I don't have a Texas fan to pick on." Yeah, it's all good, Hank. Man, little trash talk's okay. David Cummings, another super chat says, "Appreciate you all." Th- Thanks, David. Man, you've been a big
Yeah, I'm
help,
gonna
man.
say if y'all don't mind, get that super chat for old Couz, man. He puts in a lot of work with
Daniel
this
Daniel
podcast.
Giga Daniel, I'm going to butcher your name, man, so I apologize. But he's Daniel Gigow or Gigax says, "I don't see why the Big 12 would add Utah, having BYU get not only the state of Utah but a large LDS following on the West Coast. Outside of Oregon and UW, no one else pulls in a large fan base in the West." What you? That's a good point. What do you think about that, JPC? Do you think the
I
Big 12 should
think
try to get Utah?
I think by the Big 12 getting BYU, man, that was a huge get. I've always said that, man, because they have such an underrated fan base. BYU's got a huge following. They're just like Notre Dame. They got one of the most popular religions backing them up as well. And Utah themselves, they're in the state of Utah with BYU. And I've been in some of their groups, man. You'd be surprised how big of a following Utah has.
Yeah,
So he's pretty much on point with that. I mean, if you could get Utah and get in Oregon and Washington too,
yeah,
um, that would be pretty nice, man. That'd be a pretty huge get, I think. Arizona and Arizona State to me would be a good get because, like you mentioned in your podcast, that's a pretty nice market to get. Phoenix and Tucson, and it's pretty close to California too.
right. Yeah, I like Arizona State more than Arizona because Arizona just doesn't thrill me. Now in basketball, it would be an awesome get.
That'd be a great get for basketball. People
Yeah,
people forget about basketball. It's the second biggest money making sport. So
mhm, absolutely. And Brett Yormark's a basketball guy. That's where he cut his teeth.
right,
Uh,
probably why he's trying to get Gonzaga too, right?
yeah, I think so.
And see, the
Uh,
Pac-12, man, people don't realize Pac-12 has been around longer than the SEC. It's been around since like 1930 or something.
yeah, it has been
So
around a while.
Kevin Warren has been responsible for Deep Six and a pretty old conference, in
Mhm.
my opinion. Kevin
Hank says,
Warren ain't with the Big Ten anymore, right? He's on left, right?
"Yeah, I don't know if he's actually officially left yet or just on his way out. I'm not sure the exact date, but I do know. But he is leaving. Yes, if he hasn't already, he's going to the Chicago Bears. Is that right? Is it the Bears?"
He's a snake. You gotta
Well,
watch it.
apparently, and I didn't realize it. But now, after he announced he's leaving, it all stuff started coming out, leaking out. He
Yeah.
was not liked by the presidents of the Big Ten.
No, man. He tried to deep six the entire season because of his political agendas.
Yeah,
That
well,
guy,
that and
it seems like that guy's sort of grooming himself to get into politics eventually.
could be. You never know. But pretty much anybody that knows him says that the NFL is a better fit for him.
Yeah.
Hank says Texas is in jeopardy of being the next Texas A&M. Never know.
Texas thinks, they've been an issue in every conference they've been in, really. I mean, they were responsible really for the Southwest Conference biting the dust, and then they come over here to the Big 12 and they run off Nebraska and Colorado and Texas A&M and Missouri because they wanted that Longhorn network and didn't want to
Mhm.
share the money. Well, you don't need to be in a conference then. If you don't want to share money, you need to be an independent.
Yeah, I agree with you. Texas is a
And
whole
they
other
think
level of
they
elitist.
the SEC and start dictating. They may tell the SEC to their face, "Oh no, we're not going to try to dictate." But in the back of their minds, they're probably thinking, "Yeah, when we get in there, we're going to start dictating.
Yeah,
We're going to have penalties like, oh, you can't throw the horns down. That shit's not going to fly over here, man. We're going to be doing this all day long."
I hope they do.
If the SEC kowtows to them and gives them away on that stuff, I'm gonna be highly pissed off.
I hope they don't, man. That's one of the things. See, that's another reason that the irate eight, as they call us, are pissed off because the Big 12 catered to Texas, man, for
Yeah.
years, and then they still leave anyway.
How can you call a penalty for someone throwing the horns down?
It's stupid, man.
If the horns up ain't a penalty, then horns down shouldn't be.
It's ridiculous. They're a bunch of crybabies, man. And the conference catered to them for years, and yet they still up and leave you. You know what I mean? It's like no matter what you do, it was never good enough for them. And I think Oklahoma just saw the opportunity to go with them, and they jumped on it. And I don't blame them for it, man.
They had to. I mean, they had to.
You can't pass that up.
They had to. Right. And Texas, if you think about it, might be single-handedly responsible for the demise of Nebraska football, because Nebraska would have never left the Big 12 had Texas not been pulling that crap. Yeah. And now they're in the Big 10, and they're like an outpost. You sort of can feel with that. With West Virginia sort of being disconnected from the Big 12. But now y'all have Cincinnati.
Yeah,
and that'd be a game a lot closer.
It's a little better.
Central Florida's not really close.
Yeah, I mean, we complain about the travel a lot, but to be honest, what choice did we have? It was either go to the Big 12, who would take us,
right,
or stay in the Big East, which was falling apart, and end up in the American Conference.
That's what would have happened. Y'all would have ended up in the AAC. So the Big 12 needed somebody, and y'all needed somebody. So
yeah,
y'all helped each other out.
Yeah. Now I have heard it said that, because you remember at the time, I don't know if you remember this, JPC, but WVU and Louisville were both trying to get in the Big 12 at the same time, because Louisville was still in the Big East at the time. They hadn't moved to the ACC yet. So them and West Virginia were both trying to get in the Big 12. Matter of fact, Joe Manchin and who's the senator out of Kentucky? I'm drawing a total blank, man. He was over the Senate last year. Anyway, he was trying to get Louisville in the Big 12. So there was jockeying on the Senate floor. It got political. West Virginia ends up getting in. Well, like a year later, Louisville goes to the ACC.
Yeah, well, it was like Louisville might have made out better.
Well, it kind of makes me wonder, had Louisville gotten the Big 12, would West Virginia then have gotten in the ACC? Now, I don't know the answer to that question.
That probably would have happened. You're right.
Golden Blue Dude seems to think so, but
I believe you might be right about that. And yeah, I think y'all would have been better off in the ACC. It's much better. Well, not now, but it used to be the basketball. It used to be the premier basketball conference. But now the Big 12 is. I mean, just ask Alabama. I mean, we went over to Oklahoma, played 11-9 Oklahoma team, and got our ass handed to us. I mean, we're even close.
Yeah.
That was embarrassing.
David Cummings says, F Texas, they get what they deserve, and I'm an Oklahoma fan every first weekend in October. Yeah, I think we can all hate Texas together.
Yeah. Don't the ACC sort of have some kind of standard a little bit higher when it comes to academics?
They do, but Louisville doesn't fit it.
And that's what I'm saying. Why would they? If the academics are so high,
they had to have a team. They were bringing Notre Dame in as a non-football member for all
that's
the
just
sports.
Like the Big Ten.
They needed an even number.
That's just like the Big Ten and AAU crap, man. They got Nebraska in there. I'm like, Nebraska's not AAU school.
Mitch McConnell's the senator I was trying to think of, by the way.
Is USC
Thank
AAU?
you, John Kelly. Who?
Is USC AAU?
I think so, yeah. USC's a pretty highly prestigious school.
I know they're a private school, right?
Yeah, so they are. That's the reason they didn't have to deal with all that.
I thought that the USC, one of the two, is not AAU. It's either USC or UCLA, I thought. They need to stop that crap, man. They just say that stuff, man. Try to look all elitist. But, Kansas up in their game has sort of made it to where now there's no gimme game in the Big 12. There ain't a gimme out there no more. I mean, back when I was growing up, man, Kansas and Kansas State both were like going 0-9 until they played each other, and whoever won the game would have one win, the other one would have a winless season back in the 80s. People don't realize how great of a job what's his name, Bill Snyder, did at Kansas State, man.
Yeah. Oh, he was. Bill Snyder's one of them, in my opinion, one of the greatest coaches of all time.
I mean, he had to actually technically take over the worst program ever in college football,
Yeah,
and Kansas State
literally.
goes to bowls regularly and contends for conference titles and wins them.
He was really close a couple of times
Yeah, I
to
remember
winning
that.
national titles.
I remember that. I think
Like
it was
one or two
19.
losses away from playing for national titles.
I think it was 1998. He lost a game late to UCLA or somebody, and
Think about
ended up
that.
not winning. But I think with what he was dealt and what he had to deal with, man, he's probably just as good a coach as Nick Saban or Bear Bryant or Joe Paterno or Bobby Bowden
Mm-hmm.
because of how he came into a situation where the team was going 1-10 every year.
Yeah, Curtis wants your Marcus Nagel the Pac-12 schools. Yeah, I think it's looking. I mean, I still don't think. I think at the end of the day, the Pac-12 is going to end up surviving and going and adding a couple extra teams, just like the Big 12 did. But man, they're taking a long road to get there. That's for sure.
They've been dragging their feet for quite some time, man. I thought Kliavkoff was going to be a good commissioner, man, but he's dragging his feet, man. They need to add San Diego State or somebody.
Yeah. To me,
Um,
San Diego State's the low-hanging fruit to go grab, and then
right.
maybe get SMU or Tulane or
Yeah.
somebody like that to add to the mix. SMU would get them into Texas. Tulane would get them a really another prestigious
Big
academic
12
institution, since that seems to
and
matter to them. What's that?
Yormac, man, he's a demon, man. He's going out there, man. He's doing things. He's shaking the trees, man. And if he's smart, man, like I said, man, he can put his foot on the Pac-12's throat right now.
Mm-hmm.
He can just
Yep.
maybe talk 4 of those teams to coming over. It'll be over for them. They might
Yep.
go out and have a bunch of teams, like you said, but will they really be the Pac-12 at that point? Only in name. Be like the Mountain West turned into the Pac-12 or something.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, people are saying the same thing about the Big 12, and I guess it's fair, but
Well, I mean, the Big 12 goes out and takes the Pac-12 schools. They might be really G5
right,
schools.
right. I see what you're saying. Oh, I
Yeah,
see what you're saying now. Then the Pac-12 would have nothing left, but they'd be basically half a conference of G5 schools, pretty much at that point, right?
if they get to that level, man, I think that they should lose their Power 5 status, the Pac-12. Because what's going to end up happening is it's just going to be Washington State and Oregon State. That's all it's going to be, man. And they're going to
Yeah,
add a bunch of Mountain West and AAC schools to shore it up. And I
yeah.
saw a comment earlier on one of my videos that this one guy said that Washington and Oregon would not leave Washington State and Oregon State. I'm like, man, you're crazy. You're crazy, man. They said that about Oklahoma State. And you see what Oklahoma did.
Yeah.
People didn't think Texas A&M would break up the Texas rivalry, and they did it.
T Hart's asking why I aren't on Sikkim 365 much. I love those guys, man. I just don't uh, have time. This was the best time, only time I had to do this, so I had to do it when I could.
Right.
Um,
Y'all hit that like button too, man. Just click out, hit the like button, and come
what's
back.
up, Chris
Yep.
D, another channel member? Thanks, man. Thanks for coming on. Got Dennis Haiti in here. Thank you, Dennis. Remembering Pac-12 and ACC are still in the talks. Don't sleep on that possibility. Yeah, it's possible. I could see it happening. That makes sense. I mean, it don't really make sense, but it makes sense considering the whole alliance deal. But to me, if they do that, they haven't learned their lesson from the first time. that
Pac-12
they
just needs to get over certain things, man. It's just like they missed on BYU because
yeah,
of religious stuff. I'm like, y'all worrying
yeah,
about the wrong stuff, man. It's about athletics. This ain't got nothing to do with that.
yeah. Real quick before we only got a few minutes left, I want to touch on this Dana Holgorsen thing real quick. This article that came out, Dana Holgorsen did a press conference the day the schedule came out. Did you see it?
I did not.
Anyway, here's the comments he made. They were asking about the schedule, and he said, "Let me start down here where it really see where's it start. Here it is." From the University of Houston's perspective, it's awesome to be a part of it, but you look at it and you go, "Woo, that's going to be pretty challenging." So let's get to work. We've got a lot to do. Then it goes down. He says, trying to get down to his quotes here. Says in all, Holgorsen had the general aura of a dad of a family that was just gifted a golden retriever puppy.
He said, "What?"
The author said he looked like a dad whose family just got a golden retriever puppy. The kids are
Oh,
overjoyed to have a pet to play with, talking about the new schedule. Mom is happy to see the kids so excited, while dad is calculating all the time and energy it'll take to keep the new family member from completely wrecking the house. He's basically concerned that they don't have good enough facilities. He says, we better be doing things institutionally to give us a chance. I know what football needs to look like, and we're going to continue to improve it, continue to make progress when it comes to on the field product. Institutionally, we've got a lot of work to do. Says a lot of things need to happen if we're going to be able to keep kids like that a four-star recruit they asked him about. In this world that we live in, just because you won a recruiting battle doesn't mean it's over. You've got to know you've got to now make the life good at the university if you want to be able to keep guys of that caliber. And then here's I'm trying to get to the one statement he said about. He basically said the facilities they have right now are dead last in the conference. And here's actually a list of fundraising, the top fundraisers in the new Big 12. Kansas is at the top at 21.9 million, which actually surprised me. Look where Houston is, all the way at the bottom, 3.8 million.
wow.
Next to last is UCF at 7.7 million. They're less than half, or right around half of what UCF's doing. And that's a school that came out of the same conference as them.
So I get 3.8 million in donations.
Yes,
That's awful, man.
I know, and that's why he's so. That's why Holgorsen's so aggravated. And if you add that to their ticket sales and stuff too, they come in at 7.4 million. UCF 17.5 million is next to them. Think about that, man. Now, obviously, this is public schools. The private schools don't share their data, so it's not on here.
Right.
But you can't compete in a Power 5 conference at $7.4 million in funding, man.
That's how much. That's your coach's salary.
I know.
You spend all your money on your head coach, and you ain't got no more money to do nothing else with.
So Holgorsen says, now we need everybody to kind of put their money where their mouth is, so to speak. We've been wanting this for a long time, so now's the time to step up. What does stepping up look like? It can be as simple as getting your butts in the seat, season tickets, Cougar Pride, hopping on board. There's just so many things that they got to do. So what do you think about his comments there? Do you think it was fair of him to make those comments?
Yeah, you just never can tell with Dana, man. He's always talking out of both sides of his mouth, maybe. Mm-hmm. So he'll say one thing and then turn around and do another. But if he said he knows what football looks like and what it needs to be, then he should have thought about that before he left West Virginia to go to a G5 school at the time.
Right. Yeah. Well. Yeah. You're right. Good point. I hadn't thought about it that way. But he goes on to talk about building depth.
He screwed himself because he couldn't handle the pressure of the Power 5 school.
Well,
now you're going to be a Power 5 school again, Dana.
Yeah.
You're the one that ran from it. You ran from West Virginia. Nobody made you leave.
That'd be a great video, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it is a great video. I'm talking about it right now, big Beetlejuice head.
I can see now. I'm seeing, you know how you always use the Lincoln Riley running away like a chicken. I could do the same meme with Dana.
Yeah, we'll do some stuff for Dana since we want to act like the Skittle shitters out there in USC.
But he talks about building depth and
that's another thing with USC, man. They got all this money they're giving Lincoln Riley and whatnot, but that LA Coliseum is falling apart, man. And it's in a bad neighborhood. Why ain't they doing more for their facilities? They got so much money and they're so great.
Chris D says, what the hell are they thinking joining the Big 12? I know Houston has had a little success, but damn. That's the point, man. I mean, they don't even – those numbers are embarrassing. For I mean, even UCF's at 21 million or was it 17 million in revenue with donations and ticket sales and stuff.
Well, especially them being located in what is the second most populous city in the nation?
It's in the top 5 for sure. Behind you've got New York, LA.
They're third or fourth, right?
Dallas, they're in there, man. I don't know. Yeah. They're in the top 5.
You got all these people, man, you can't get support, man.
Yeah.
Maybe you need to quit wagging your finger at people and get out there and do some leg work yourself. Go out there and do some booster functions like Nick Saban and them do.
Well, their recruiting's in the 50s right now.
Yeah,
I was
it's
looking at
not
that the
gonna
other
be good.
day.
Whose fault is that, Dana?
He's the coach. Who else? It's got to right. I mean, who's the buck stop at? Stop. Dana's
You
never
can
been.
tell-
I mean, one of the things he said when he left West Virginia is, and this is what made us all mad at him, is he said, "You can't win the Big 12 at West Virginia because you can't recruit
oh,
good enough talent."
man, him and Lincoln Riley sound like they've been going hand in hand, man. They probably stayed in a hotel room together one night, slept in a heart bed or something.
You're giving me a lot of video ideas, Outlaw.
Don't give a
I'm
hell.
just not good. I'm just not good at trash talk like you are. So when I
Yeah,
try to do videos like that, I get people unsubscribing to me and stuff.
when I get on other people's videos, I try not to do that a lot, but
Oh, it's
sometimes
okay.
it comes out like Tourette's.
I think it's funny.
I've been trying to be nice, but I don't
No, you're
like
good.
Dana Houston, man. That's one of my sore spots. Him and Lincoln Riley and a few others.
Yeah, I didn't have an issue with him leaving, but it was the way you don't go do an interview with Sports Illustrated and talk crap about a school.
That's what I'm talking about. When I'm talking about both sides of the mouth. He's talking about how Houston needs to step up and do all this, but when he had a Power Five job, he ran from it. So
Yeah,
he's I don't know, man. I just don't trust that guy, man. He seems like a big hypocrite.
yeah, he's definitely he definitely rubs people the wrong way. I mean, I think one of the reasons he just wasn't a fit at West Virginia. I mean, his lifestyle wasn't a fit. His personality wasn't a fit. Gordon Gee, our president, likes guys who are more professional acting and polished and CEO type guys. When you look at Dana Holgorsen, do you see a CEO?
No,
I
man.
mean, I'm being honest. Do you?
He looks like a washed up bartender or something, man. I don't
That's my
know.
point. And he didn't. That rubbed Gordon Gee the wrong way. He did not like it. But Dana was already the coach when he was hired, so he basically let his contract play out. And the word on the street is Dana wanted an extension. He had just went 8-4
He's
with
like
Will
he's
Greer
like
and those
Uncle
guys who should
he's
have
like
been. They should
Uncle
have won the Big 12 that year. There's no reason they shouldn't
he's like Uncle Rico with a receding hairline or some shit, right?
have. Yeah. Hank says you see a BUM.
What's that?
Hank called him a BUM.
A
Bum.
B bum.
Yeah. Browns and Beer says, in all due seriousness, I don't think Dana liked the range that he had to recruit at West Virginia. At
Well,
WVU, you have to hit about 6 hour radius. Yeah, that's true. He wanted to go to Houston where he had the talent. And I actually meant to do a video on this, and I haven't
that's
yet. But when you look at Houston's recruiting, the guys they've recruited, I think there's 2 players, maybe 3, outside the state of Texas on their entire recruiting class.
much just like Lincoln Riley went to Los Angeles because he couldn't recruit to Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
You can't recruit to Oklahoma. That was his words. But what he meant to say was he couldn't recruit to Oklahoma. And Dana Hogerson, the same thing in West Virginia.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't recruit to West Virginia. Why, man? You got the state of Ohio, Pennsylvania. You got the
DC, Maryland.
Kentucky, Tennessee. You got Virginia over here. Man, there's plenty of fertile recruiting grounds, man. I don't want to hear that crap, man.
I mean, it's no secret. Dana didn't do a lot of recruiting. I mean, he would go
He's obviously not doing a lot of recruiting in Houston. You say he's in
like
the 50s.
like if there's a 5-star guy he wanted to get, or well, it would have been a 4-star guy. We didn't get a lot of 5s, but if there was a 4-star guy he wanted to get, he'd go, try to nail him down. But for the most part, he let his assistants do about all the recruiting. At least that's what I hear. Now, obviously, I'm not in the room, so I can't speak from experience. But um,
Sound like Deion Sanders.
yeah, S. Michael Dehart says when he first came to WVU, he got caught up at the dog track and cross lanes drunk. I'll tell you the full story sometime. One of my best friends is head of security at the dog track. Interesting, Michael. I'd love to hear it, but I did hear about that because it made the news. He had just been hired as offensive coordinator, had the job long at all. But here's the rumor. The rumor is, and of course Dehart can tell me this later off the air, but they stopped serving him alcohol at like 2 a.m. and he got belligerent because they wouldn't serve him alcohol and they had to kick him out.
The dog track drunk.
Yeah, we have a casino in it's near Charleston and in a town called Cross Lanes.
We'll just start calling him DTD. The dog track.
Dog track Dana. That's a good one. Actually, I've been to the dog track a few times, and it's a lot of fun. I ain't gonna lie. Now I haven't gotten kicked out at 2 a.m. drinking, but I did win a little bit of money on some dogs. Dennis Haiti says tons of talent in that area. Just the southern area alone is crammed with talent. That Galveston, Kenna, League City area, crazy talent. Yep, you're right. Well, we've been on here an hour. I know JPC's got a place he needs to go. I've got some stuff I need to do as well. JPC, is there anything before we go? Let everybody know once again here before we jump off where they can find you at.
Yeah, if y'all want to come over and check my channel out, I get a little abrasive sometimes, but I try to integrate comedy and whatnot with college football. It's called the Outlaw of College Football, and I'm also on Twitter at OCF Productions.
And he's on Facebook, as you see on the bottom of the screen, at Jesse Paul Clark. It's Jesse with an E, Jesse. Of course,
Right.
you guys know where to find me. At Couz 206 on Twitter and Couz's Corner on Facebook. But PW Riggs hopped on here. What's up, buddy? He's another channel member. Thanks for hopping on.
I'm going to see a movie tonight called '80s for Brady. It's got Sally Fields and all them older chicks that used to be hot back in our day, or back in my day anyway.
Yeah, that's a comedy movie, right?
Yeah, and they're these 80-year-old women that have like this man crush on Tom Brady.
That's funny. PW Riggs, thanks for the support, man, and thank you, John Kelly. He's always a loyal listener and watcher. Hank says, later, guys. Hank's been on here the whole time. Thank you, buddy. He's off to Pestra, Texas fan. It's all right, PW Riggs, man. Better late than never is what my mom always said. D Hart, man, thanks for hopping on. I know, this overlapped with the 365 Sports, so I appreciate you taking time to jump on here. Outlaw, man, we'll have to do this again soon.
I mean, I've enjoyed it, man. It turned in at the end there, it sort of turned into a grilling session. And I have the Tebow Linky Boy Lincoln Riley grilling sessions. Now we can start having the Dana Holgorsen grilling session.
Take some of the heat off Linky. He's getting
yeah, he's getting all burned up, man. We'll just throw Dan on there and just burn him.
There you go. All right, man. Well, you enjoy your movie.
All right, brother. Y'all take care.
Everybody have a good night and Q Country Roads.